Come on, come on. Die, die, come on, die. You know, I can't decide if I hate Destiny or I somehow strangely love it. It's kind of like an abusive relationship with this game. But you know what I do hate? Responsibility. Ugh. Gross.
Honey, aren't you going to do your chores today?
No, Mom. I'm about to level up the Vanguard.
Are you still wearing that stupid mask?
Yes, Mom. I'm a superhero.
Right. Whatever.
Now, where was I?
Really what I'm doing here is reviewing Destiny as it is in the Rise of Iron. But I'm not going into the details on the other expansions, as those are fairly old and have been reviewed by plenty of other people before me. So first, let's talk about the new content. There's between 2 and 2.5 hours of missions to do. You can do these missions solo, or with friends and other players. A lot of them take place in the new area called the Plaguelands, but we'll get back to the Plaguelands in just a little bit here. So there's a new strike, and by one, I mean it's a totally new strike. There are 2 other strikes that are remixed versions of older strikes that are counted as new strikes, but come on, they're just updated with new enemies, and those enemies are mainly just reskins of old enemies, so are they really new? Anyway, there's a new patrol area which takes place in the Plaguelands, an increase in the light level cap, meaning you can get gear that levels your character up much higher than previously, 4 new multiplayer maps, but only on PlayStation. Xbox only gets 3, and one's a timed exclusive to PlayStation. A new multiplayer mode, Supremacy, and then there's the big Wrath of the Machine raid, which was patched in post-launch of the expansion. So I want to look at each of these elements a little more closely. So let's look at the missions a bit. Like I said, there are around 2 hours of missions, maybe as much as 2.5, but no more. These are missions that someone could play solo, so if you're a solo player who doesn't play Destiny with their friends or other players, this 2-hour chunk of content is mainly what you have to work with, other than the new multiplayer maps, if you even like Crucible. As far as the story goes here, it's really minimalistic and forgettable.
I just lost all readings from the sensor grid. There's a monitoring station near your location. Hook into it and try to get the grid back online.
No problem.
Now, I like Destiny, but I gotta be honest about this. If you're playing this game to find out more about the in-game world, Rise of Iron is not worth it. There's really nothing new added with it. There's a few small things. I don't want to spoil what's there, but the biggest addition to the lore is a substance called SIVA.
I'm picking up some strange readings. It's like what was on Sepix, but if I didn't know any better, I'd say this stuff is consuming everything around it.
That is SIVA. With the proper direction, it could create anything a civilization would need. At least in theory.
Which seems to have been used by humanity in the Golden Age to form different technologies, which has been uncovered by the fallen House of Devils and integrated into their existing armed presence on Earth.
Something weird incoming. These Fallen are different. They're augmented with some sort of technology, like Sepix.
Obviously, Saladin from the Iron Banner is going to play a big role in this story, but if you really want a decent story from Destiny, the Taken King one was much better, and that's where I have to use that as a point of reference. They may not have wanted this expansion to be as big as the Taken King, but the fact is the Taken King was the one right before it, and it totally blows the story of Rise of Iron out of the water. Next up, we have the Strike. The new Strike, I mean. This Strike is honestly terrible. It's incredibly unbalanced and basically pinches you between an unkillable ogre who is invincible and a boss that's a bigger bullet sponge than the game's infamous tank bosses ever were. While the area design and even the boss design is really cool, the Strike just isn't fun, and the boss is a reskin anyway. It's just not worth the frustration of playing. An average Strike with a well-trained team takes about 10 to 15 minutes. I've beaten some of them in 6. This strike I've seen take upwards of half an hour with teams that were incredibly used to the game and its mechanics, and whose players were well beyond the recommended light level for the strike, because you're basically being pinched in between an insta-kill from an unkillable enemy and a bullet sponge. And then you have mobs coming down from the ceiling. It's not fun. It's terrible.
Can we please take a moment to just appreciate all the reskins in this game?
We had a deal, Degenerate. You got your crappy intro skit, and I, the voice of reason, got to review the game, remember?
It'll just take a minute, come on.
Make it quick.
Alright, then we'll get back to your review after.
Okay, guys, so, first up we have all these sparrows, right? I mean, come on, really? And then, we have these ships. Ugh. Just more color palette changes, blah, blah, blah. As soon as they do introduce new armor, they just reskin that too. And I've got more to complain about too. Okay, that's enough out of you, Degenerate. We're moving on. How about the patrol area, the Plaguelands? Well, it's big. It's too big for its own good. There's a lot of really cool SIVA structures here, and there's a new activity here called the Archon's Forge. That's cool, right? Well, the Archon's Forge pits a team of players against a few waves of enemies and a boss, after someone makes a SIVA offering to the command console outside. This may sound fun, but doesn't it also sound familiar? Well, that's because it's the exact same as the Court of Oryx from the Taken King. It's the exact same activity with some different enemies and the addition of the Iron Lord's axes to use on the enemies, which are completely broken. These weapons are very fun to use, they're like the sword but really OP, but people exploit them and can 1 or 2 shot the boss. Is it an awesome weapon? Yes. Was it well thought out? Absolutely not. The new social space, the Iron Temple? Well, what's so social about it? Like before, here's the thing with Destiny's social spaces. You really can't talk to anyone. You can invite them to your fire team and talk to them that way in a chat, but nothing else. There's no keyboard support. I know that Destiny isn't an MMO, or at least Bungie has tried to tell us that it's not. So let's just call it a game with lots of players that feels just like an MMO. But anyway, looking at other games with lots of players that feel just like an MMO, like World of Warcraft and RuneScape, you can sit in the middle of a highly populated area and type to other players in general chat, coordinating events and making friends. Not in Destiny. There's no keyboard support. I get it. You wouldn't be able to type during combat. But why not in the social space? You don't see many people typing during combat in WoW. I mean, but it's there. This area is so cool, and it would just be great to be able to do more in it. Obviously, the higher level you are, the easier the past content becomes, but there's one thing Destiny really did right this time, and that's the light system in relation to the Year 2 gear. Any gear you got since the Taken King release, you can actually infuse into and bring it up to Year 3 levels. The multiplayer maps are really fun, but I kept getting the same map over and over on Venus, not seeing the others much, and I really wish there was a way to vote for these maps. While Supremacy can be a lot of fun, it's kill confirmed. They're engrams instead of dog tags. We all know it's kill confirmed. So I want to recap with a list of all the positives I found and the negatives and what my personal verdict is for Rise of Iron. So the positives. There's 2.5 hours of missions, 1 new strike, new patrol area, new social space, increase in overall light level, 4 new multiplayer maps, new multiplayer mode Supremacy, reveals some backstory of the Iron Lords, great game to play with your friends, and Year 2 gear is infusible to the Year 3 limit. Here's the negatives. The story is boring, it has no substance, and it abruptly ends, which makes it much like the original Destiny story, which was disliked and panned universally for these reasons. It makes accessing the raid a huge grind fest. You need to grind SIVA strikes for hours to get from 350 to 365, and good luck getting above 365. Have fun grinding more. Only 1 new, completely, totally from the ground up new strike? Why? The others are remixed, and we've been waiting a year for this. The patrol area, while fairly cool, is dead. There's nothing going on there. Archon's Forge is a knockoff of the Court of Oryx. It's $30 for an expansion that doesn't feel much bigger than the first 2, which were really small, and it doesn't fix any of the existing problems that we talked about. So what's the verdict? Burn it to the ground! Well, in this case, I'd say that if you don't already like Destiny to some extent, there's no reason for you to get this. More to the point, if you don't have friends to play the game with, there's not much here for solo players, especially for the $30 price tag. I play this game with my best friend, and I often found myself having more fun because I was playing with him than because I was playing Destiny. But here's the thing, it's a video game. I'm supposed to be having a lot of fun with the game too. And while Destiny is fun and I've always enjoyed it, it just wasn't that fun in this add-on. That said, I've always enjoyed Destiny. I've always really liked the lore. That might be surprising from the way I talked about the expansion, but I really do. I've always loved the world of the game, and I'm one of the few people who actually goes on their phone and reads their Grimoire cards on the Destiny app. So, it's not like I'm just hating on Bungie and Activision, guys. I love Bungie. I really actually do like a lot of the stuff Activision makes, even though they're kind of a hated company. They do make some good stuff. So overall, guys, while I really do like Destiny, I just don't see anything here that would make anyone like the game who didn't already. Taken King is for those people. A lot of my friends who hated Destiny before, played Taken King, really liked it. And while that fixed a lot of problems with the game, this introduced a lot of new ones without fixing much. So everyone, that's what I think of Rise of Iron. What do you guys think about it? Or the game in general? If you liked my video, I'd really appreciate it if you subscribe for more content. I do lots of stuff with comic books and video games, and I'll see you later. Peace.